So in this video we're going to talk about the angles that are formed when a transversal intersects two parallel lines. The transversal is this red line that comes through diagonally through the two parallel lines. And you notice that some angles are formed on either side of the vertices when the transversal hits the parallel lines. Notice that the same angles that occur up here on this top parallel line also occur down here on this bottom parallel line. So the first pair of angles we'll look at are adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are angles that are next to each other, such as this 130 and this 50. They're side by side because they both share this transversal as a common side for the angles. Now because those two angles add up to 180, we call them a linear pair. Linear pair angles are supplementary, such as this 130 and 50, this 130 and 50, this 130 and 50, and you could repeat that as well down here. We also have another pair of angles that are formed at the intersection called vertical angles. Vertical angles are always congruent. And those vertical congruent angles are like this 50 and this 50. They're opposite each other at this vertex. These 130 degree angles, they are congruent vertical angles. And again, same thing occurs down below. Our next angle pair are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are angles that are formed when this transversal intersects the two parallel lines. Corresponding angles would be like this 130 degree angle, this one here, and this 130 down here. Notice that this 130 here, if we slid it down, it would match up with this 130 here. And as a result, those two angles are congruent. Now, corresponding angles are always congruent, so in that case we could refer to the 50 here and here, the 130 underneath, and this 130 underneath, and this 50, and this 50. So corresponding angles always match up, and they are always congruent. Alright, next, we've got alternate interior angles. Now when we refer to the interior of the parallel lines, we're talking about this space in between the parallel lines. Think about the two parallel lines like two pieces of bread on a sandwich. This is in between the parallel lines, or in between the bread of the sandwich. Alternate interior angles, let me highlight them for you here, would be this 50 here, and this 50 here. Notice one is on the left and one is on the right. Their measures are congruent. Now those 50s that I highlighted here and here, we could also refer to the 130 degree angles. Those are also alternate interior angles, and they are as well congruent. Now if you talk about alternate interior, you can also talk about alternate exterior angles. And for those we'll refer to these 130 degree angles, like this one up here and this 130 here. Notice again, alternate means one on the left, one on the right side of the transversal. Exterior because one is outside on top of this parallel line, and the other one is outside on the bottom of this parallel line. They're outside the parallel line, so they're in the exterior. And we could also refer to the 50 degree angle here and this 50. Those are alternate exterior angles, and alternate exterior angles are always congruent. Alright, then we get to same side interior. Now same side interior angles, think about what it means. Same side of the transversal. Interior means in between, so for that we're referring to this 130 degree angle and this 50 degree angle. And the relationship of those two angles is that they are supplementary. Likewise, if you look at the other side of the transversal, the 50 and the 130, again they are supplementary. So same side interior angles are always supplementary. And our last angle pair, our last angle pair is same side exterior angles. Now for same side exterior angles, we're talking about outside the parallel lines. So if we highlight some angles, we're talking about the 130. And again, stay on the same side of the transversal, so I'm just going to slide down and stay on the left side, but stay outside the parallel lines, for that's the 50 degree angles. And the 130 and the 50, those are supplementary. They add up to 180 degrees. So the skeptic always thinks, well, that's because it's the way you have it set up that those relationships happen. Well, notice if I move point A and change the angle measures, let's change them to something like this. So now instead of 130 and 50, we've got 110 and 70. Those same angle relationships occur. So we've got vertical angles here with the 70s. We've got linear pair supplementary angles here between the 110 and the 70. We've got corresponding angles between this 110 and the one down below here. We've got alternate interior angles that are congruent, the 110 here and the 110 here. We've got alternate exterior angles that are congruent, like this 70 up here and the 70 down here. We've got the same side interior angles that are supplementary, like this 70 here and the 110 here. And we have same side exterior angles that are supplementary as well, like this 70 here and the 110 down here. And those relationships always exist if two parallel lines are cut by transversal. No matter where you set your parallel lines, you know, I'm using nice numbers that we can add easily, like 110 and 70, but you could use any position for these angles. I can move these lines up here, and you'll see, for example, you still have corresponding angles here, 37 here with 37 down here. So I hope that helps. Thanks.